Are you ready?
Yeah!
Okay, you have heard her in almost everything. Dragon Ball Z, My Hero Academia, Soul Eater. The list goes on and on and on. But let me welcome to the stage, Monica Rial!
I've got all the waters!
All the waters.
Yeah, exactly. This is voice acting 101. Always have all the waters. So before we get started, I wanted to say to those of you that have come through my lines, I know they have been ridiculous. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for being so patient. As long as I am able to sit at that table, I will sit and sign all your stuff. I am not leaving. I have not peed or eaten since 12 noon. And I came straight here, and that's totally okay because I'm going to make sure that you guys get your stuff signed and everything. But thank you for being so patient. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
That is so much dedication there. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. And I think that some people tend to forget that. But I'm like, hey, look, you guys support me, and I'm so appreciative. So the least that I can do for you is sit at a table during my lunch break. I certainly don't need to eat anymore, so it's fine.
It's sold out. Did you know that? Did you know this is sold out? The whole con?
Yes, today.
Today's sold out.
Crazy. It's crazy.
I have so many people here.
It's awesome. Go, everybody.
That's awesome. Actually, I have a question for you. Involving Rooster Teeth called Gymlock. Can you care to tell us a little bit about this? This is some exciting news that just came out, correct?
Yes. So does everybody knows Rooster Teeth, right? You know the Ruby girls and everything. You know, I was in Ruby for a hot second at SiennaCon. Well, I'm actually in the new show, Genlock, with Rooster Teeth, that's coming out in January, and I'm super stoked to talk about it because I kind of feel like one of these things is not like the others. Because I am like the only anime person that's in Genlock. The cast consists of Michael B. Jordan, who is playing the lead character, Julian Chase. I play Colonel Raquel Marin, who is a Puerto Rican 55-year-old lady. I get to be grown up young. And we've announced Dakota Fanning and Koichi Yamaeda, who is a Japanese Spike Spiegel and many other things. But just yesterday they announced that there is a doctor that I have most of my scenes with, and it just so happens that David Tennant is going to be voicing the doctor. So I'm super stoked. If I meet any of those people, I'm probably just going to pee my pants. Especially Michael B. Jordan.
Do you watch Doctor Who?
I have not watched Doctor Who, but I love David Tennant. He's just fun. I know, I see you making that face, and Tatum has already schooled me. Trust me, I hear from Tatum all the time. I just don't watch a lot of television.
What's your favorite David Tennant? Like,
just David, behind the scenes David in a con. That's the only David I know.
Oh, so personal David Tennant.
Right, David's great.
Oh, wow. I've yet to meet him personally, so that's quite jealous. Guys, this is the Q&A. Do you guys have questions for Monica? Come on up. Don't be shy. She wants to hear from you guys.
I don't fight hard.
Well, my first question is, well, I only have one question. Of all the video game characters, specifically video games, who's your favorite and why is it Bienfu?
I love that. Who's your favorite and why is it Bienfu? Bienfu is one of my favorite video game characters. If you guys have played a game called Tales of Berseria, I play a character named Bienfu, and he's the mascot character, and he's really annoying, and that's the whole point. And it's awesome, because I actually was nominated for a voice acting award for Best Performance in a Dramatic Video Game. Opposite Troy Baker and a whole bunch of other people for Bienfu. Not even serious, like I play another dramatic character, but no, they were like, Bienfu. Like, he's the comic, okay. But no, I do love playing Bienfu. He was a lot of fun. I would say in Fire Emblem Echoes, I get to play Mila, who's the goddess. And that's pretty awesome to be called out to LA because they can't find a goddess in LA. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll bring my Dallas goddess to So yeah, video games are super fun. I play like 4 different characters in Smite. There's some new Missplosion Man. If there's any Missplosion Man fans in here, there's some new stuff coming out with that, which is exciting. So yeah, I love video games. But yes, I love being good. Yeah! Hey!
How much has Soul Eater had an influence on your career during your time as a voice actor?
Soul Eater, okay, so Soul Eater was a really, really cool experience because sometimes we have shows where we have to audition and then the auditions are sent to the Japanese company and then they look through it and decide who they're going to cast. So the American side doesn't have a whole lot to do with anything. So Soul Eater was one of those shows and I auditioned for Liz and Patty and I thought, totally gonna be Liz. Because it was that time at Funimation where I played every little girl. Like there was a period where they were like, nobody else can do it, only you. Like, yeah, I'll do this again, woo! So but they had an audition for Tsubaki because they're like, okay, whatever, we'll try it. So when I went off to Japan and then Zach, the producer, contacted me and he's like, hey, so you're in Soul Eater. And I'm like, let me guess. He's like, actually, you're playing Tsubaki. And I went, I guess my voice sounds sexy in Japan. I like it. For me, it was a big self-confidence thing because it was like, hey, the Japanese really like your voice, and not only do they really like your voice, but they like it something you've never done before. It was also a very challenging role because Tsubaki and I have nothing in common. If you've met me, you know this. She loves Black Star. I hate it. So when I was recording, the director would have to be like, yeah, I'd be like, there'd be a Black Star line, and I'm like, oh, I hate chocolate. And he's like, Tsubaki, I'm, that's right, I love Black Star. Black Star is wonderful. Black Star is the greatest. So it was really, really hard, but I love that character as a result because she was so challenging. She's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, so first I want to say I love Mira Jane. She's such a great character. And my question is, how did you figure out Suyu's voice?
Oh, Suyu! Wow, this is fun. So, here's the weird thing about anime, right? I know that I have a very distinctive voice, but when I first started, I thought, oh cool, I'm gonna get to do all these really weird, strange voices and creature monster noises and stuff. And then every time I go into an audition, they're like, nah, just use your normal voice. I was like, but I want to do, okay. So it's very rare that we get to play around a whole lot with our voices and do something completely out there. So when My Hero came around and there were characters like Mineta and Suyu and things like that, I was like, oh my gosh, finally this is my chance. So when I went into audition, I actually auditioned for a bunch of characters, but the 2 that I remember most are Mineta and Suyu.
And somehow I just decided that this was the voice I was going to use. And it's kind of like I'm holding my nose, but from the inside, if that makes sense to any of you. You're kind of going, whoa, like, seeing it come out of my face is weird, probably. So when I did that, I auditioned with Suyu's voice, and Colleen Klinkenbeard, who's been a good friend of mine for years, was like, I didn't know you could do that. I was like, well, I didn't either, but there you go. But the funny thing is that for the longest time, Brina is a very good friend of mine as well, and so Colleen was very honest with us and was like, look, I don't know which one of you I'm going to cast as Mineta and which one I'm going to cast as Suyu. And so there was a very slight chance that I could have played Mineta, but man, did I luck out. Mineta is a cool character and all, and I love what Brina's doing with it, but Sue is best, girl. I'm sorry, haters. Sue is best. But yeah, that's how I came up with the voice. And also, for you guys, if you are on YouTube, I haven't done a video in a while, but I'm gonna do some new ones. But if you're interested in voice acting and stuff, I have videos on YouTube about, you know, how I became a voice actor, how I come up with different voices and stuff like that. So.
One last thing, Reddit.
Reddit.
Or if you watch in Japanese, cannot.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, so my question is, what has been the best experience you've ever had in your career in voice acting?
Other than today.
Other than today, and all of you wonderful people. I've had so many good experiences. Like, I can't tell you how great the fandom is. Like, you guys are awesome. Dragon Ball fandom is, they get a little riled up sometimes, Dragon Ball fans, but they are the most die-hard, loyal, cool fans ever. But I'd say one of the coolest experiences I've had in a while is kind of Dragon Ball related, and it's not in the booth, but at a convention. I went to Anime Boston, and I was downstairs signing next to some of this Japanese guest, and I didn't realize that, and I'm not going to say his name because I would butcher it, you guys probably know better than I do, but the Japanese voice of Frankie in One Piece was there. Fantastic man, but he came over with an interpreter and asked me to come over, and I came over, and he goes, through the translator, he was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm a really good friend of Hiromi Suru, and we did theater together for years. And I absolutely loved her. And I'm watching you interact with me. Stop trying to get... He's like, I'm just trying... It makes me so emotional. He's like, I'm watching you with the Dragon Ball fans and watching how you interact with people who are dressed as Bulma, dressed as Vegeta. And he's like, I just wanted to let you know that Hiromi would be proud. And I was like... totally did exactly this, only like with tears, just and all the fans are like, what did he say to her? But it was one of the sweetest things that has ever happened to me at a convention, because this guy didn't know me from Adam. He just saw me over there signing and noticed that it was Bulma, and he knew about his friend, and he wanted to share that with me. And so that is like really, really special to me, and it really, it really hits home. So, but yeah, you guys make it all worthwhile too. I don't want it to make it sound like that you guys are awesome, because you are. And meeting all of you is great. But that is the one instance where I totally ugly cried in front of everyone. Normally I'm like, Google images is forever. Make sure you look okay. Don't pick your nose in public. But that was the one time I was like, I'm gonna ugly cry, and I don't care. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was interesting. I had a panel with Tom Kinney earlier. He started tearing up too.
You know what I think it is? I think it's because, not that this isn't true of stage acting or on-camera acting, but with voice acting, because you only have your voice to rely on, you really do become that character. You have to like believe everything they're saying, because if I don't believe what I'm saying, you guys won't be able to, you won't believe it either. So I have to believe inherently in my character and love my character and believe what I'm saying. So you get really attached. You get really, really attached to these characters and to the people that love these characters. So I think that's what it is. We tend to be a little more emotional because we're so involved with the characters.
Especially with all the fan interaction. Someone was like, you were my childhood.
Yes.
And he was like,
every time I hear it,
I'm like tearing up. It was so wonderful.
It was awesome. Yeah, the You Are My Childhood always gets me like, oh God. First, because it's like, I'm old. And then it's like, oh, but that's okay. Hey, hon. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I got some time from you earlier, but
Yes.
I was waiting in line to even get in line.
Sorry. Yeah, I had a line and then another line.
Really?
Yeah, it was like the overflow. So thanks for all my overflowers. What's up, man?
But I was wondering, since you know the new Broly movie's coming out in January, and it'll be the 4th Broly movie. Even though it's a reboot, how do you think Bulma would have felt with Vegeta if it wasn't a reboot, fighting Broly for like a 4th time?
I don't know. I'm not allowed to say a whole lot about the movie, period. But I will say this. Bulma is ride or die. I mean, after Yamcha. Bulma is ride or die. So I feel like no matter what, she'd be right there with them. And I think that that's been proven in Super. Like, no matter what, she's like, oh, you're not going to the future without me. Oh, no, let me get in that time machine. Let's go. So I think that she would be there, and she would be, I think she'd support him no matter what, even though she might be scared. You know, but I think she'd support him. But I'm looking forward to the movie. I just want to yell at people again. I want Broly to be afraid of me, because everybody else is afraid of me. I want this to happen. Thank you, sweetie.
No problem.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, like, was there a character that really resents you, or like you can relate to, that you've ever voiced?
Oh, like resonated with me?
Yeah.
You know, there's one, and people don't realize this about me, but I was in a show called Watamote.
Yeah.
I like the. And I played a character named Tomoko. And now this is a very cringe-worthy comedy, but what's really important is that Tomoko suffers from social anxiety. Like, she has severe social anxiety, and that's kind of what the whole show is about. I'm about to tear up again, y'all. So when I was a kid, I had severe social anxiety. Like, I was the kind of kid that when my cousins would come over to like hang out, I would like blush and run away. My cousins, y'all. So like my family got me into ballet, but ballet didn't really help because you're still kind of in your own little world. You know, it helped a little. But because of that, when I played Tomoko, there were moments that I was just like, oh my gosh, I totally would have done this when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I totally would have pulled the same thing. I wouldn't have handled it as beautifully as she did, or laughed about it, because, you know, when you're young, it's hard to laugh about being stupid. You guys just laugh. It's totally okay. I look like an idiot. It's totally fine. If people are judging you, they're not worth your time. It's true. But that's the thing, is that character specifically resonated a lot with me because I had been in those shoes before. If that makes sense. Good question. You guys are asking awesome questions, and I'm not just saying that. I usually get like kind of strange questions.
Hopefully this question falls into the former category and not the latter. What is a question that you wish people would ask more often at conventions?
I see how you turn that around, because now I've got to come up with a question that's actually decent. You know what? I wish more people asked me about my theater. You know, I used to do theater a whole lot, and the only reason I don't do that anymore is because voice acting is my life. That's all I do anymore, but I don't have time for it. But I used to love to do theater. I did a lot of on-camera work. One thing I will tell all of you right now, if you ever meet a voice actor, do not go up to them and say, do you ever do any real acting? Because I know people don't mean that. They don't mean any harm, but to a voice actor, that's like saying, I mean, I know you play pretend, but do you ever do the real thing? Because most of us, like, we're voice actors, but we also do on camera, we do stage, we do other stuff, so we do real acting as well. But yeah, I wish more people would ask me about, like, the acting side of it, and what is my process, and only actor people will understand what I'm saying right now. There's like 3 of you that are like, yeah! So that kind of stuff I'd love to talk about, but I do know that it is a convention, and half the people in here don't want to be actors or don't care, so it's like I don't want to bore them with all my earthy, crunchy, granola, hippie actor stuff. So, but I do, that is one question that I'd love to talk more about. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
My question is, what was like your inspiration, or what got you into voice acting or theater, period, I guess?
Well, in theater, okay, so, how do I explain this? So I was a ballerina for a very long time, and then I hurt my knee when I was like 12 years old. And if you hurt your knee when you're 12 years old, that means you will never be a professional. So it's kind of like, because you're a professional by 16, basically. And then you're done by like 30, usually. So when I hurt my knee, it was like, well, I have to figure out something else to do. And I love being on stage, and I love singing, and I love performing in front of people, so what else is there? So when I was 12 years old, I started taking acting classes. And it was one of those things that took this shy kid, and I kind of blossomed because I was like, oh my gosh, I can become a character, and then it's not really me. I don't have to get out in front of people, and that's kind of how I got over my anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna pretend to be this person, and then I won't be upset or hurt or freaked out. And so that's kind of how it went. And then I started taking, I really enjoyed it, so I went all through middle school, all through high school. I went to college at the University of Houston and studied theater at the University of Houston with Jason Douglas, who plays Beerus, and many other characters. Oh, and also Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory, who plays Sheldon. We all went to college together, believe it or not, small world. And so, yeah, when I was in college with Jason Douglas, we were actually doing the Shakespeare show Cymbeline together. And he was like, hey, I'm doing this stuff, and you should really audition for it. And I was like, in Houston, Texas? They do anime in Houston, Texas? Not in LA? Like, seriously? So he gave me the card, and I called that weekend, and I went to audition, and I fell in love with it, and I thought, well, this will be fun while I'm in college. It's better than waiting tables, right? Super fun. And here we are 20 years later. So what I always like to tell people who are aspiring voice actors or interested in voice acting or any kind of acting really, or any creative outlet, is keep your options open. You know, when I first started, I really wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to do musical theater. I wanted to do Shakespeare. I was like a theater snob. And then this opportunity came up, and I'm like, you know what, I'll try. I've never done anything like that. And it changed my life. So always be aware. Like if you think that you want to be a watercolor artist and somebody says, here are some crayons, be fantastic. Try it, because you never know. You might be the one artist that makes crayons awesome, you know? So yeah, just make sure that you keep your opportunities open and always try new things, because you never know what's going to stick.
Awesome,
Thank you. You guys have great questions.
Hello there. I have one big question, and then a small one on the side, if that's all right. The first one is when you go for a role, do you compare it to what the Japanese original dub is? And then the second question is there any role that you would like to put your voice onto?
Oh, fun. The thing is that now because of the simuldubs and we do so many simultaneous releases, we don't get to see the Japanese because it's not out either. So for those of you that don't know, on Funimation's website, they have a streaming service and it's like $5.95 a month. And what they're going towards is simultaneous streaming. So that it means it comes out in Japan and in the US dubbed the same day. And they kept it up with My Hero until recently, and then Japan was like, oops, we forgot to send you some stuff. So now we're 2 weeks behind again. But the goal, I think the end goal is to do it all simultaneously. So that's great for you guys, but it sucks for us, because then unless there's a manga or there's some other source material, you have no idea. So like I'm also a script adapter, I was a script adapter, and I worked on a show called Handshakers, and there was no source material. This was just some idea for an anime that somebody dreamed up and was like, yeah, we're gonna do that. And we did a simuldub on it. There was nothing on the internet. So I was so reliant upon the translation and talking to the translators, making sure I was getting it correct. But normally, like if we have time, if stuff is out, like some of the Crunchyroll shows that we dub that have been out for a while, then I most definitely before an audition will go and watch stuff. But another thing that's happened with simuldubs is we don't audition as much. The directors will watch a show and be like, that's Monica, that's Jamie, that's Tatum. And we just get called in randomly, so you don't even know. The good side of that for me has been that there is a seiyuu named Aoi Yuki, and she is phenomenal. And Aoi Yuki and I, for whatever reason, everybody hears her voice in Japanese and goes, that sounds like Monica's speaking Japanese. And so she and I have played like 6 or 7 different roles opposite each other, including Suyu and Tanya Degurachoff in the Saga of Tanya Lee, like really different characters. So I'd really love to be able to meet her one day for one. But it's worked out well for me because she gets a lot of work. So when people hear Aoi Yuki, they're like, oh, that should totally be Monica. So then I get a lot of work. So I'm probably Aoi Yuki's biggest cheerleader. Yes, go Aoi, get another job. And what was the second part of your question?
The second question was if there any role out there that you ever wanted to have your voice be the thing for.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I watched Sailor Moon growing up. So I might have been a little bitter when I went to California. Until I found out Stephanie Shea is playing Moon, and I was like, okay, that's pretty awesome. And also my favorite Sailor Scout, because when I was younger, I told you I was shy and everything, so I identified the most with Sailor Mercury when I was younger. But I would never be cast as Sailor Mercury. She'd be used all the way, I'm sure. But yeah, that's the one show. If I could have been a part of Sailor Moon, it would have been.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, Fernanda. Hello. Hi.
I told you earlier in your booth that Michiko and Shiro were like my favorite characters. So, how'd you get the accent for Michiko?
For Michiko, I'm from Houston, Texas. And this is my best friend Faith, if y'all haven't met her. So when you're from Houston, Texas, everybody just kind of talks like this, right? I mean, most people, like you're talking to people, you're like, hey, how you doing? I'm from Houston, what's up? You know, we're just all a little hood rat in Houston. It's also the most diverse city in the United States, if you guys didn't know that, which is pretty awesome. So the fact that we're all a little hood and we're all from all over the world is even more awesome. But where Michiko came from is when I was in school. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Hispanic from Spain. But as a result, I look really pale, right? Everybody assumes in the United States, you gotta be dark if you're Hispanic. And I'm like, no, we come from all over. See? Exactly. You never know. See? But people, yeah. Hey. But that's my thing, is that people, you know, sometimes they're blinded or they're just ignorant, right? So when I was in high
high school, there were all these cool chola girls, right? And they would always talk like this, like, hey girl, how you doing? Like, I'm gonna do my eyeliner, it's gonna be awesome, watch. And I wanted so badly to be friends with them, right? I don't know why, but I was fascinated with them and I wanted to be friends with them. But they wouldn't hang out with me. Because they're like, girl, you're white. We're not gonna hang out. Tú no puedes hablar español. And I'm like, sí, yo puedo. And I'd like walk out and get all mad. So for me, Michiko, as it came back around, I was like, this is gonna be my homage to the cholas from high school. So now when you go back and watch Michiko, you can be like, oh yeah. That's where that sass comes from. Because I mean, I'm sassy, but not that sassy. What I loved most about Michiko is that I did that show, like Jason Douglas, the guy that I told you that pretty much got me into anime. Chris Bevins, the director, brought him in and was like, hey, who's that? Just like, I don't know, but they sound amazing. Who is that person? He's like, that's Monica. And he's like, that's not Monica. And then I came in and I was like, hey, Jason, how you doing today? He's like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that. Like, surprise! But yeah, I love Michiko, and it was kind of fun being able to pay homage to that group of girls who hated me so much. I bet they really hate me now. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. So, when you're acting, do you prefer doing emotional scenes or comedic scenes?
Oh, you guys are making me think. Hard. Emotional. Okay. I really love comedy. I really think that comedy is one of my strong suits because I really enjoy it so much. Jamie Markey and I have so much fun writing comedy, performing comedy. But there's something to be said for a good dramatic scene. One of my favorite things that I've ever done, has anybody seen Death Parade? Yes, okay. So I think it's episode 3 of Death Parade. It's, I play a housewife with a whole bunch of kids. And I go up against Ian Sinclair's character, who's kind of like a deadbeat, gamer dude. And it gets real, you guys. Like, I have never cried in a booth like that. It was kind of like therapy, like free therapy. Because it was all this stuff about not being good enough and having people tell you that you're never going to amount to anything. And so, like, me and Ian both were like, oh, God. So yeah, there were real tears, there was real snot, I'm not even gonna lie. Snot, tears, it was awful. I screamed so loud that people in the other offices, like, our booths are pretty sound protected, but if you're next door, sometimes you can hear. And I had people from like the next 3 booths coming in like, are you okay? We heard that from over there. So there is something really cool about the dramatic scenes because it's very cathartic. You kind of get that release. And so it's real funny because I'll go into the studio and have a day where I'm crying and screaming and everything's awful, and then I go home and I'm like, hey, how is everybody? Because I got it all out. Now I don't have to scream at my significant other because I screamed at anime characters all day. So yeah, I like them both. Y'all are going to learn very quickly that I'm very bad at making a decision.
By the way, you made my childhood.
Oh, thank you! It never gets old!
I gotta stand on my tippy toes for this one.
You're so cute. With your Bakugo body pillow.
You gotta support your friends.
I love it!
So first off, I want to tell you, you're so gorgeous. I was in the overflow line for like a very long time. I haven't gotten to meet you. And
thank you.
Also, are you doing a signing after this?
Yes, just so you guys know, real quick.
We're telling you weren't. I was so.
Yeah, here's the thing. The core con is trying to stick to what's in the book, and I'm kind of screwing them over because I'm like, there's a lot of people here, and I want to sign stuff for everybody. So what we're gonna do is after we leave here, I'm gonna go pee. You need to know that. And I'm gonna go have like some yogurt and a banana, and then I'll be back out there, and then I have another panel at 7:15. So until it's time to go there,
that one too.
I know that my best friend and my helper Core are probably like, I'm like, we gotta keep going. We can do. Huh? 7:15 is another episode of Steal That Voice. You guys didn't get to see it last time, so it'll be fun. What was your question?
But yeah, I just want to tell you, you're so gorgeous. I was in the overflow line and I saw you walk out and I was just like, oh, okay.
I feel like I look like a turtle, but thank you.
My question is regarding the most recent dubbed episode of My Hero. So you said you connected a lot with your characters. So I know it made me cry, but were you crying?
Now here's the issue with Suyu's voice. I did cry the first time and it sucked because then my Suyu voice goes away.
Yeah. Because everything is like right here, like I told you in the beginning of my nose, but then when you like actually start,
It's kind of like when you're a singer, right? And you start singing and then you start crying. My singer's out there and then all of a sudden you can't hit the notes anymore and you're all over the place. You guys have seen American Idol, right? That last song never sounds as good as the other songs when they get kicked off. It's kind of the same thing. So I realized very quickly, okay, well we're gonna have to like get right to that line and not go over it. But what was great is Colleen was out of town that week, and so Caitlin and I got to co-direct that episode, and so I had Caitlin there to direct me, and she did an amazing job. So everybody give Caitlin props for helping me through the Suyu crying. She was amazing. But yeah, it's really hard when your characters like do something new. Like you have to figure out, how does this character scream? How do they cry? How do they do these things? And so that was challenging, but man, it hurt my heart to see that poor little baby cry.
Also, would you like a kind bar? I have an extra kind bar.
You're so sweet. I would totally take it, but I have a retainer in my mouth. Yeah, it's awful, guys. Don't ever get a retainer unless you have to. But thank you. I'm gonna get a banana after this. You best believe.
It's a banana flavor kind bar, so.
You're so
it's
sweet.
the same thing.
Save it, because you're probably gonna need it. I know you guys like to give away your food, and then I see you at the end of the weekend, and you're like, I haven't eaten in 3 days. I haven't slept either, but I'm here. So hold on to it with your partners. Thank you.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi. I was wondering, when you play May Wren in Black Butler, and I noticed when she takes the glasses off, you switch your voices around. How do you go about that? Do you like pretend like she's a different character you're voicing, or is it like just an extension of the character?
An extension of the character. That is such a good question. Gosh, you guys. I'm like getting goosebumps. I'm like, holy moly. So, for those of you that haven't seen Black Butler, you might want to cover your ears, because, woo!
May Wren talks like this. Everything is really ridiculous because it's set in, England, right? And so since she was a servant and I've done a lot of Shakespeare, it's like, what if we did a Cockney accent? That would be fun.
So then when she takes her glasses off and she kind of has a different persona, I was like, Ian Sinclair was the director, and I was like, you know what would be really cool? And he's like, oh, do you think you could go from one voice to the other? Because when she takes her glasses off, all of a sudden it's what we call RP, which is royal pronunciation. Everything is very clean, clear. And so he's like, do you think that you'd be able to like go between the two as she puts those glasses on? And I'm like, I don't know, let's find out. And so I tried it, and so she's talking like this all of a sudden, and then it just kind of goes slowly, goes into this, and it's like, oh, I got my glasses on now, it's great. And Ian was so excited, he started jumping up and down and rolling around on the floor. He's like, oh my God, you did it, you did it, you did it. So that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, so mean. But thank you for asking that. That's such a great question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my sim girl.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you
again.
I have 2 questions. One, how would you describe your experience of playing stocking from Panty and Stocking with garter belts?
The most fun ever. I had super fun in Panty and Stocking because I got to curse. And those of you that know me know that I usually play a lot of really innocent characters. I don't know why. That don't curse. And so it was fun to be able to like fill as many 4-letter words as I could in one sentence. But it was really amazing to me is watching everybody else in the cast react to me having to say those words. So you guys met Jamie Markey last year, and she was the script adapter for Panty and Stocking. And I had people coming up to me after the fact like, oh my God, you had to say that, are you okay? Like doing me to like, calm you down, is everything all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Jamie's like, you guys, she talks like that all the time. I have them all snowed at Funimation. They think I'm so sweet and awesome. Brina's like, she's not. Jamie's like, she's not. No, but I am sweet, just not as innocent. What was your other question, sweetie?
Okay, for the shippers out there, sorry, but I got a question for you about Black Butler. Do you ship May Wren with Sebastian? Because I always see her blush around him and all that.
Of course I ship May Wren with Sebastian. Because she loves him. And honestly, she could shoot Gretel from afar.
But yes, I love it when I have my Sebastian and Mayrin shippers because it's super fun. I think it's super cute.
Hi. Actually, my question was in relation to what she was talking about, penny and stocking.
Oh, fun!
So when Jamie was here last time, she talked about how much fun you guys had on the show. What was your favorite memory or line from that show? Can you say it?
Who here has not seen Penny and Stocking? Okay, here's a fair review. It's really offensive. Not ghost stories offensive, I'm in that one too. But offensive. So one of my favorite lines, I guess the clean line is, "You keep talking, but all I hear is syphilis." One of my favorite lines is, we went to AX when it premiered, right? And there's this huge room full of people and they play the dub. And so there's all these jokes about like, you know, Asperger's and this and that, and everybody's like laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And then there's one joke that I thought was funny and everybody else got really upset. And that is when Garterbelt is yelling at them. He's like, "Rah!" yelling at them, and Jamie Panty says, "You better calm down or you're gonna have a stroke." And Stocking looks at him and goes, "And then you'll only be able to yell at us out of one side of your face." And much like you guys, that was the reaction. All the other jokes were like, "Ha ha ha." So I think I really love that line just for the reaction it got, because you should have seen me. I sunk in my chair. I was like, "I didn't say that." But yeah, that one. It's got, if you were into being offended, I highly recommend Penny and Stocking or Ghost Stories. Thank you, sweetie. Hey, how are you, hon?
Hi again. So I have two questions. One is also related to Ghost Stories. So, like, how do you feel
about Ghost Stories?
About acting in Ghost Stories?
I love it. Here's the thing. So we live in a very different society than when Ghost Stories came out. Ghost Stories came out in like 2003, 2004, something just crazy like that. Which is why a lot of the jokes are kind of dated. But back then, you know, it was totally fun to like poke fun at people because, you know, hey, we're only joking, right? So that's why we call it the equal opportunity offender. It's like, we're going to offend everybody and everything. If you were a pug, you're going to be offended. Like, we just wanted to make sure that we were equally offending everyone. So, that being said, it was a lot of fun to be a part of at the time, most definitely, and I think some people get really upset now, and I'm like, you guys have to understand it was a different time back then. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
My second question is more specific. I'd like to ask, what's your favorite thing about Maho?
Maho and Steins Gate. Well, I got to speak Japanese, and that was really, really cool. But my favorite thing with Maho and Steins Gate is she's such a complex character, and I really love working with J. Michael Tatum. He's such a brilliant actor, and getting to voice opposite him with, all my characters are in love with him. I might be a little bit too. No, I'm kidding. He's one of my best friends. But yeah, I love working with him. I know we're running out of time, right?
Yeah, we have about 4 minutes.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do, you guys. I wanna get to everybody who's in the line, but ask your question quick, and I'm gonna answer as quick as I can. How's that?
Speed round.
Woo!
In the Soul Eater universe, which is cringiest? Black Star, Excalibur, or Dr. Stein's Crank?
Excalibur.
Black Star.
Black Star.
Sorry, guys. Black Star.
Favorite line from what are your favorite line when you voiced in Bulma?
I'm sorry?
I said, what's your favorite line when you...
Oh, my favorite line is Bulma? Yeah. My favorite line is Bulma is one that I think that I actually just ad-libbed. It's in Battle of Gods, when, you know, Beerus and Whis come down and Vegeta's like, oh, they're my friends. She's like kind of drunk and she goes back to her birthday party and she's like, hey, you guys, Vegeta has friends.
Quick question. How did you feel about voicing Kirika from Noir?
Oh my god, I love Kirika. Kirika Noir is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because I had to convey so much emotion by going, like she barely spoke, but oh my god, I love that show. Thank you. What a great old show.
It was one of the ones I grew up on.
I love it. Hey!
Hey there. Do you have any advice or pet peeves for the etiquette of people coming up to a booth? Like,
Don't spit on me.
not llamas, people.
No, I think everybody here especially has been very polite, but I think that has some of that southern hospitality and all that stuff. Just don't be rude. Like if you wouldn't say it to your mom or you wouldn't say it to your siblings or your best friend, don't say it to me. Because I probably won't like it and I'll go,
Don't be stalking.
yeah, don't be stalking. Yeah, just be cool. But you guys have been great. There's been no problems here.
Okay. Hi. So we all know Bone was a genius.
Yes.
A leader in several fields. So my question is, if you could be a leader in any scientific field, what would you want to be a leader in?
Forensics. I love forensic science. I'm sorry, I watch forensic files to go to bed every night.
How many guys are scientists?
I know, we talked about this. We have to talk about forensics.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely.
Yes.
Hey, my question's kind of weird, but
it's okay.
You said when you were younger you're like really shy and everything. So like I have autism and stuff, and I wasn't able to talk when I was younger, but I wanted to learn like voice acting and stuff, and I've learned to kind of talk by using characters in my head.
That's awesome.
To talk for me. I didn't know if you did something similar to that. Like,
Oh, I've got so many characters in my head. Everybody that you've heard is still in here.
Yeah.
I know that sounds insane, but they're still in here. And it's a coping mechanism.
And it like help you come out of like your shell, kind of like.
100%. I still sometimes, if I feel uncomfortable, will go into a character voice. It's a nice little trick.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
Is working on video games different from anime?
Yes, so quick rundown. So with video games, you're given the picture of the character and you get to create it. Unless you're dubbing a video game like Tales of Berseria came over from Japan, or like Dragon Ball, you have to match the timing, not necessarily the lip flaps or anything. But on anime, we don't change that animation at all. Like the animation is set, so we have to adapt the script and the voice acting to match the already there flaps. So basically, anime voice acting is the hardest of all voice acting, and it also pays the least.
Hey, Mandy! Hi there. As a musical theater fan, what is your favorite musical and what is your dream role?
Okay, I've always wanted to play Miss Hannigan in Annie. And I've always wanted to play Vera in Chicago. I got to play Sally Bowles in Cabaret, and that was awesome. Gosh, favorite musical? Oh, I'm gonna go with Chicago. I'm gonna go with Chicago here. You look beautiful, by the way. I love it. Not that you all don't, but I was watching you over there, and I'm like, ooh.
Are there any character voices that you look back on the past and think, like, why did I choose that voice to go with?
All the time. But what I try to do is think, okay, I've learned so much from that, I'm just going to move forward and try not to dwell on the past. Because you go back and you watch your early stuff and you're like, oh, I could do that so much better now. But yeah, there's some, especially character voices that hurt, like Lero in D. Gray Man. He talks like this, and this hurts after 8 hours. So yeah, I would have made different choices for some, but no regrets. Thank you.
So you already answered the question that I was going to ask about Ghost Stories being the first official Abridged series. So what's it like being able to play all of these really like zany characters like Stalking or really sweet characters, and then being able to go to Mira Jane and have a really dark side where she wants to kill everyone?
Mira Jane is the gift that keeps on giving because she's like 18 characters in one, because each form has a different voice, and the teenage Mira has a different voice, and the little Mira has a different voice. It's amazing. Like I don't think I could have another job after this. Like if I tried to go work in an office, I would probably just be like, I'm flipping tables. Because I get to go every day, when I go to the studio, I'm bouncing from booth to booth playing all kinds of characters. So I love it. Thank you. 2 more, we can do it. Let's go.
I have a niece who's also in acting business, and she does voice acting for a little bit, but sometimes they're with the other actors, and sometimes they're in the booth, so like, how do you feel about that, and do you prefer one or the other?
We tried having everybody in the booth for Go Downer, and the reason that it's difficult is because we're like in Japan, sometimes they're working to schematic animation, which means it's not fully done. So when they're recording, if they decide to ad-lib or something, they can go back and animate that real quick and add it to it. So that's the thing, is that we have that set animation, so it's really, really hard to match flaps in a group. And some people work slower or faster than others, and you don't want to make people feel insecure. So I would love to be able to do it, but yes.
I thought of another question while I was sitting down. What would you say is your favorite moment as Bulma throughout the Dragon Ball?
My favorite moment? Oh my gosh, there's so many. I'm gonna say that for now, my favorite moment has been the episode with Whis and Vegeta and Bulma and the ramen and the food, that episode with Mega Chicks. Because Chris and Ian are two of my really good friends and we go out to eat together all the time, so it was kind of like art imitating life. It went full circle, but yeah, that's probably my favorite. Thank you guys so much, y'all have been so awesome.
It's your time. It's really nice to meet you guys.
I'm gonna leave here, I'm gonna go pee, have some yogurt and a banana, because you needed all that information. And then, yeah, I'll be down at the table until probably about 7 o'clock. But thanks, you guys.
All right, everyone give it up for Monica Rial.